Welcome, Dohadeva and everyone. Good to be with you today. Close this window here. Om Sahana Bhavatu, Sahana Bhunaktu, Sahaviryam Karavavahai, Tejasvinavaditamastu, Ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. And we will share the screen. Here we are, July 23rd. See what we have today. Time for our puppy's walk. Our first topic. It's been questions sent into satsang@hindu.org. Question, you have mentioned several times, do not think. How do you stop thinking? In the moment when you are aware you are thinking, in the long term? So two-part question there. And there are a number of important answers to this question. For today, we will just focus on the answer of mindfulness. I will present the publisher's desk on mindfulness, but before starting that, let's look at a simple example of an opportunity to be mindful. It is when we eat a meal. When dining alone, many individuals tend to overlook the taste and experience of the food as their minds wander to unrelated matters. However, the mindfulness approach encourages us to shift our focus to the flavors, textures, and smells of the various dishes we're consuming. Looks like a good meal there. By consciously savoring each bite, we can instruct our minds to temporarily set aside any lingering concerns or distractions until later. This way we can fully engage with the present moment and stop the culinary delights and enjoy the culinary delights before us. Oh, comment on that. During eating, the thinking mind remains disengaged while the observing part of our mind takes over. It is this observing aspect of the mind that remains actively engaged during the act of eating. In other words, don't think, observe. Of course, you can't do this all day long, as quite often we need to be thinking. But practicing observing without thinking on a regular basis helps us control the tendency to think too much of the time, which is a product of our modern life. Always bombarded by ideas. So that's the basic idea. In situations where we can observe without thinking, do so. And that lessens the tendency to think throughout the day. And the publisher's desk, a Hindu view of mindfulness. While mindfulness has been redefined for popular secular purposes, its original spiritual intention remains unchanged. October 2019. So it's 4 years old, this pub desk. Mindfulness, yoga, meditation, as similar as they are, they have important differences. Of them all, mindfulness is in the ascendant in popular culture, though the others have built up a larger following over time. So these statistics are from 2019. A Google search yields 1.2 billion hits for yoga. It would take a long time to read all those. 415 million for meditation, and 207 million for mindfulness. We can see of the three, by far, it's the one with the least information on the web. As is commonly known, yoga originated in and is still an integral part of Hinduism. Though in today's popular concept, it is a secular practice, generally limited to stress reduction and physical health. So that's not a criticism. Stress reduction and physical health are good, but it's like driving a sports car 10 miles an hour. You're not taking advantage of what it was designed for. Originally and still today in India, it had a more profound spiritual role as a comprehensive eightfold discipline known as Raja Yoga, which we're very familiar with. Mindfulness has followed a similar path. With origins in Hinduism, it became a key element in Buddhist meditation, and in today's mainstream culture is relegated to a secular practice, for example, to support emotion management, reduce stress, and focus the mind. Very similar to yoga. Everything seems to end up being about the body. In the Hindu approach, emotional management, stress reduction, and enhanced mental focus are also important goals. However, they are beginning level goals. Sanskrit term smriti, which means remembering, speaks of the idea of being mindful, remembering ourselves and our relationship with what we are aware of, being present to that. Mindfulness is a preparatory practice for Raja Yoga, which leads to the advanced attainment of higher states of consciousness and ultimately union with the divine as the omnipresent and loving consciousness within us. These mystical states are not part of today's secular definition of mindfulness. An article in the April 5, 2019 New York Times shows how far mindfulness training has drifted from its Hindu meditative roots. Again, it's not a criticism. Mindfulness, the practice of using breathing techniques similar to those in meditation to gain focus and reduce distraction, is inching into the military in the United States and those of a handful of other nations. This winter, Army infantry soldiers at Schofield Barracks in Hawaii began using mindfulness to improve shooting skills. For example, focusing on when to pull the trigger amid chaos to avoid unnecessary civilian harm. The article goes on to list a few other countries that are also providing this training to their military. There's mindfulness for elite athletes, for actors in films, for Michelin chefs, and for 3-year-olds in daycare. It is both tragic and ironic that this spiritual discipline has been reduced to a tool for training soldiers to shoot the enemy better. And the question, I should have asked it to you, so I'll ask it to you anyway. What exactly is mindfulness? Well, why don't you give that an answer? What is mindfulness? What does the term mindfulness mean? The Positive Psychology program in the Netherlands offers a terse definition. Mindfulness is attention in the here and now. What a great definition. It's attention, which is a term Gurudeva uses, and here and now, which is also a term Gurudeva uses. So we're paying attention to what's going on in the present. Seems to be what I'm about to say. Said another way, it is directing our full attention to what is going on in the present moment without letting the mind think about or be distracted by something else. For example, in performing simple chores such as making a meal or washing the car, the full mind is on that task. In listening to a friend explain what he or she did yesterday, we focus 100% of our mind on what is being said, not allowing ourselves to think about something else at the same time. While eating a meal, we focus on experiencing the different textures and tastes of each dish, which we looked at first. In the teachings of Gurudeva, attention is the first step of the progressive mental practices of Raja Yoga, which he defines as attention, concentration, meditation, contemplation, and self-realization. Those are his original English terms when he didn't use Sanskrit. He described attention as holding awareness steady, centralized in only one area of the mind. Quote, attention is awareness poised like a hummingbird over a flower. It doesn't move. The flower doesn't move, and awareness becomes aware of the flower poised. The entire nerve system of the physical body and the functions of breath have to be at a certain rhythm in order for awareness to remain poised like a hummingbird over a flower. Now, since the physical body and our breath have never really been disciplined in any way, we have to begin by breathing rhythmically and diaphragmatically, so that we breathe out the same number of counts as we breathe in. After we do this over a long period of time, and you can start now, then the body becomes trained, the external nerve system becomes trained, responds, and awareness is held at attention. So that's actually a second practice. Breathing diaphragmatically can be looked at as a separate practice as an answer to our question, how do we not think? We slow the thinking down by regulating the breath. Here is a mindfulness exercise that involves detailed observation of our environment. Take a walk, ideally in nature. Notice every detail that you can about what you see. Perhaps you have had the experience of walking with a young child who spontaneously described details that you hadn't noticed. Young children have keen powers of observation because their intellect is not overactive, nor have they accumulated excessive burdens of unresolved past experiences that consume adult minds and memories. And try to be like children by noticing as many details as possible. So that's a really good exercise in mindfulness, which you can do. Don't have to do it for your entire walk, but when you're taking a walk, you can use part of it to just be observant. Don't allow yourself to think about anything. Just the mind can become totally absorbed by studying the details of the environment. The practice of mindfulness is integral to success in meditation. The common experience of those trying to meditate is that thoughts go all over the place, with the meditator unable to quiet them. So instead of meditation being a stilled pond, it is a stormy sea. That is really stormy. The ability to control our thoughts can be compared to utilizing a muscle. To make a muscle stronger requires exercising on a regular basis. I think we did this one last week. The more we use it, the stronger it gets. And controlling the mind is the same. The ability to control the mind is the same. The more we control our thoughts, the stronger our ability to do so. If we can control our thoughts during ordinary daily activities, say for 8 hours a day, then we have put in a great deal more effort than we do during a 30-minute meditation, 16 times as much exercise. This will definitely accelerate the speed at which we are becoming better at controlling our thoughts. Our definition of mindfulness uses the term here and now to describe the present moment. The past can be described similarly as the there and then, and the future as the where and when, Gurudeva's terms. Many individuals habitually spend a significant amount of time thinking about past and future, thoughts that result in no positive benefit. These journeys into the there and then and the where and when are a waste of mental energy and increase our level of worry and stress. Such thoughts are counterproductive to being present in the here and now. Gurudeva gave a helpful practice for reducing these pulls to past and future. It is easy to live in the now If you work with yourself a little every day and concentrate on what you are doing each moment, to begin to work toward establishing yourself in the eternal now, first limit time and space by not thinking about or discussing events that happened more than 4 days past or will happen more than 4 days in the future. This keeps awareness reined in, focused. Be aware, ask yourself, am I fully aware of myself and what I am doing? So in other words, we don't want to go to past or future unless there's a definite benefit for doing so. It's worthwhile. We're producing something positive by thinking about the past more than 4 days ago and thinking about the future more than 4 days in the future. Otherwise, we hold ourselves in this space of, here it's defined as 8 days. It then takes the exercise a step deeper. Once you have gained a little control of awareness in this way, try to sit quietly each day and just be. Don't think, don't plan, don't remember, just sit and be in the now. It's not as simple as it sounds, for we are accustomed to novelty and constant activity in the mind, and not to the simplicity of being. Just sit and be the energy in your spine and head. Feel the simplicity of this energy in every atom of yourself. Think energy, don't think body, don't think about yesterday or tomorrow, they don't exist. Except in your ability to reconstruct the yesterdays and to create the tomorrows, now is the only time. Again, we're not making the mind a total blank. We're using its observation faculty rather than its thinking faculty. What are we observing? The spiritual energy in the spine and the head. So observe, don't think. Sitting quietly in the present moment can put us in tune with a deeper part of our nature, our intuition. During such quiet moments, we can have intuitive insights such as clearly seeing patterns in our life and in the lives of others. For example, we may find that in taking on a new project, we do so with great enthusiasm, but as soon as we encounter the first major obstacle, we become negative and give up. Armed with this insight, we can work to create a new habit of persevering in our endeavors when faced with obstacles. Sitting quietly in touch with our intuitive or soul nature also has the benefit of feeling at peace with ourselves, more content with our situation and life, and more accepting of the experiences we are undergoing. Freed of the past, unfazed by the future, we live in the security of the present, the eternal now. Rishi Patanjali in his Yoga Sutras defines yoga as the restraint of mental activities. Yoga Chitta Vritti Narodha. This is usually thought of as a discipline that applies only during meditation. The traditional Hindu concept of mindfulness expands that idea to include restraining the movements of the mind during our everyday activities. Clearly, the more mindful we are, the easier it is to quiet the mind during meditation, which will lead to profound experiences of our intuitive soul nature. That's our first topic. So it's a slow change, increasing the amount of time during the day we're mindful gradually decreases the tendency to think unnecessarily. It's just a habit. And our second topic is a new series of looking at character qualities through the approach of positive psychology. So I didn't plan it. The previous first topic mentioned positive psychology. That's a institution in the Netherlands. This next part is positive psychology as developed in the United States. So same branch of psychology, just two different institutes. Oh, what is positive psychology? Is a school of modern mental health that focuses on understanding and promoting well-being, happiness, and flourishing in individuals and communities. They like the word flourish. you can flourish. It emerged as a distinct field of study in the late 1990s, led by Martin Seligman and other prominent psychologists. Traditional psychology primarily focused on treating mental illness and dysfunction, but positive psychology sought to shift the focus towards understanding what makes life fulfilling and meaningful. In 1998, Professor Seligman gave this description of positive psychology. We have discovered that there is a set of human strengths that are the most likely buffers against mental illness: courage, optimism, interpersonal skill, work ethic, hope, honesty, and perseverance. Much of the task of prevention will be to create a science of human strength whose mission will be to foster these virtues in young people. Seligman and his colleagues studied all major religions and philosophical traditions and found that the same 6 virtues were shared in virtually all cultures across 3 millennia. Since these virtues are considered too abstract to be studied scientifically, positive psychology practitioners focused their attention on the strengths of character created by virtues and developed a list of 24 of them. So what we call character qualities, 64 character qualities, they're calling 64, they would call it 64 character strengths. And so we have 6 virtues, 24 character qualities. The virtue of wisdom has 5 character strengths: creativity, curiosity, judgment, love of learning, and perspective. So we're going to go too fast to look at each of the character strengths. The idea is to look at the 6 categories of virtue. So first category of virtue, wisdom, has certain character strengths. The virtue of courage has 4 character strengths. Courage, bravery, persistence, honesty, zest. The virtue of humanity has 3 character strengths: love, kindness, and social intelligence. The virtue of justice has 3 character strengths: teamwork, fairness, leadership. The virtue of moderation has 4 character strengths: forgiveness, modesty, prudence, and self-control. The virtue of transcendence has 5 character strengths: appreciation of beauty, gratitude, hope, humor, and spirituality. So note that there's a character strength of humor. Oh, my comment. A few of the 64 character qualities in our character building workbook come from those we just looked at. Humor, for example. The monks would have never thought to put humor as a character quality, but it's there in one form or another. Our initial list was overweight and the moderation virtue, thanks to all the yamas. And we added character strengths from the other categories, such as humor, to create a more balanced list. So that's some of the background research sharing with you how we developed the 64 character qualities. We didn't just base it on Gurudeva's Hindu writings, but we looked elsewhere to try and balance it out, give more character qualities in other categories than we would tend to. So, coming up next Zoom Satsang, we will look at the 5 character strengths in the wisdom virtue. And the basic idea is looking at how others define these character strengths will probably give us a few new ideas as to what they mean, because their approach, being psychologists, is a little different than ours, being approaching it from a religious point of view. Oh, thank you very much.
오.